All right, folks, you are listening to the Yishai Fleisher Show, broadcasting here on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the Land of Israel Network. Shalom and welcome, everybody. We have a great show lined up for you, and we have with us our beloved Rabbi Mike Feuer. Rabbi Mike, welcome to the program.
Oh, Shalom Yishai, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you. It's good to be seen, lirot ulehiraot, here live. And I want to welcome all the folks that are going to be joining us on the live stream. You could definitely leave your comments, and I will get to your comments throughout the show. So everybody, welcome. And if you're outside of the land of Israel and you wish you were here, then this is the small way in which we're going to kind of connect you and bring you into the land. And today is also a very special day here in the land of Israel. It is Rosh Chodesh Av. So happy Rosh Chodesh. As I always say, Rosh Chodesh also means Rosh Chadash. Okay, it's a time for a new head. It's time to get a new perspective, a new way of thinking. And it's also the yortzeit of Aaron. I actually had the great merit to visit the tomb of Aaron with my mom many years ago. We were in Jordan, and we were with a Bedouin and with donkeys. You can't get up there with camels to that spot. You gotta donkey it up. It needs a little bit more nimble of a. Well, camels have plenty of oomph, but they're not. They're not as nimble in these like tight passages. And we went up there. It is an incredible sight. It is an incredible sight of the tomb of Aaron. It overlooks the whole Arava in southern Israel. And it's purported to be, it's got a good tradition. It's called Jabal Aharun. That's what they call it, the mountain of Aaron, in today found in the kingdom of Jordan, or what we like to call here euphemistically Ever Hayat. The East Bank, correct? The East Bank. There you go. So that was really good times, and he's a very special character that I don't think that we always kind of take time to think about this character of Aaron, who
classic overshadowed brother,
right? Overshadowed brother, and even misrepresented by Spielberg in what's that movie called, Prince of Egypt? A little misrepresented.
How did he get represented?
He was a bit rougher than he was actually a little bit the opposite of who he is, which is this incredible lover and of the Jewish people. And also when Moses, when we actually meet Aaron for the first time, and he hears that Moses has received this prophecy, he comes at him with joy and he's happy for his younger brother. He's got no jealousy.
It's an archetype of what it means to be happy, actually.
Right. An amazing person, Aaron, and one whose like greatest mistake, I like to think about this, whose greatest mistake was the golden calf. But if you think about the golden calf, like what kind of mistake was it? It was a mistake where like he went towards the will of the people to right. Calm them, to placate them, to find to.
You know, every midah has its kilkul, right? Every quality has its sort of corrupt expression, and Aaron gave the people what they wanted. He understood their need, and gave them what they wanted and what they needed. And it if you read closely in the text, went quite a bit further than he intended it to.
Right, that's right. I like to think about that moment. Is that the truth is that Moses is this very, we have a Hebrew word for it, which is dugri, which is very straight talking, cut and dried. Right. As in he says to the two Jews are striking one another. So he says to the guy who's the evil one, he says to him, Rasha, lama takerecha. Hey, bad guy, why would you hit your brother? It's very, very forward, very truthful, and he represents capital T truth. It's Moses.
Yeah. Moses is always locked and loaded. Just remember that.
Right. He's locked and loaded.
He's not messing around.
He's not messing around, and he's not giving you what you want to hear. And he's the opposite of what Aaron is, which is a diplomat.
Yes.
Which is a diplomat. Somebody who can say it in a gentle way, bring you on board.
Bring two sides together.
He's the negotiator. He's the diplomat. And that doesn't mean that it's fake. It's not fake. God forbid. But it is maybe polished and maybe coated with honey just a tad in order to
and as you said, if Moshe is the capital T truth, that was also his failing, because it was very difficult for Moshe to relate to the reality of the people, something that I would love to speak toward when we get into the Parsha in the sort of revisiting of the story of spies that we see in this week's Parsha, which is so fascinating and I think indicative of the kilkul, that sort of like corruption of Moshe's absolutism in his inability to understand other people's fear. So Aaron, on the flip side, is the small T truth. He gets it. He says, people don't argue for nothing. There's aspects of truth in what each one is saying. Now, they're small T truths, so they're not able to recognize that if you put the two together, you might actually get further. So that was his art form, to really bring people together around the fact that their partial truths would often make a greater whole.
Right. So the way I conceive of as the sin of the golden calf is actually when Moses goes up to heaven, to the top of Mount Sinai, so he's with God, and that's a place that he's comfortable with. Yep. So capital T truth is with capital T truth, and he's up there. And Aaron, who is the diplomat and who likes to massage a little bit to as you just explained, to find everybody's truths, he's left with the people. When those two forces are separated, that's when there's going to be a problem. And what happens is that the people say, we see that Moses doesn't want to come down to us. He doesn't want to come down to the rabble. And then, in
all honesty, if you were up there with God, how quick would you be to come home?
Right, especially if you're a very holy man like Moses, and that's the way they perceive him. They perceive him as otherworldly than to them. But Aaron, at that point, without that capital T pillar, and more with the people, so he's going to go towards them, and in that case, in a faulty manner, in a manner that God is displeased with. But I think that the displeasure is not at Aaron per se; it's at the separation of these two, of the tension of these two, the dialogue between these two energies, which is capital T truth and diplomatic truth. And when they're together, when there's two forces like Voltron, when these two forces are together, these.
You really just go there.
These two lions come together.
They come together.
Voltron. Right. But when they're separated, they're weak.
So what I hear you saying is that Aaron loses his anchor when Moshe's not around, and Moshe loses his bridge when Aaron's not around.
Very good.
Right?
Very good.
So and I think that both of those play themselves out in the very painful failures that each one has.
The first time that I even ever heard that there's a Torah of Aaron was at the Levine family in Teaneck. Ezra Halevi, but his father, Buzzy Levine, Leah Levine, they're like 60s hippies who are still very much there. Yes. No. And Buzzy Levine has a guitar store in Teaneck, and he's like really still lives there. And they were like, dude, don't you know about the Torah of Aaron?
The whole nother level, brother.
Right. And I didn't know. I was like, what are you talking? There's Moses. That's who
the Torah of Moses.
Seriously. Some people say it's a dat and it's a chaim. That's another way to understand it. It's a dat is like knowledge and truth, and it's a chaim is how to live it with the people. And these two forces, go ahead.
Yeah, and Eitz dat is also about distinction and drawing of lines, and Eitz chaim is an organic whole.
Just like you said.
Yeah.
So there you go. So today is the yortzeit of Aaron, and I just want to say something about this yortzeit. It's one of the yortzeits that we actually have in the biblical text.
Yeah.
Okay. It says when he passed away. We know the date that he passed away. I think that's important. Kind of. Yeah. I think it says something to us. It says like mark this day. Mark this day.
We work out Moshe's date because we get at the beginning of the book of Devarim when he began, but we don't actually get the day at the end. But with Aaron, it's explicit.
Right. It's explicit. That's right. We know the passing date of Moshe Rabbeinu, but that is our tradition. And a powerful one, but there's something very powerful when the Torah says to you, this day, this is what happens. So that's that. I also want to say, before we go on, speaking of passing away, today's show is dedicated to Leah Goldman. Okay, a mutual friends of both of ours. Shmuel Goldman dedicates today's show to Leah Goldman. I already talked about it in the first half with Malka, but I want to say it again now. A good friend, Leah Goldman, who I actually knew from high school, by the name of Lisa Height. She was in my grade, and
I met her under the same name.
Really? Long time ago.
A long time ago. I was
at
Ben Gurion
Ben Gurion.
University. Yeah, where she was the youngest. She was pretty much high school age, but she was there when we were all in college. That was kind of the way that Leah was. She was always a little ahead of herself.
She was always friendly with the older kids. It was always like
she was also just the type to charge out front. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? This is not a woman that stayed behind and let other people do the work.
Yeah, one of the things that always bothers me about her death is that, and I said this at her funeral, it was not like her. She was so vivacious, so full of life, and to this day, I'm always like, that doesn't add up to me, little old me, how to understand that.
But I guess know what her soul is doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about it with Malka, but she was very instrumental in bringing more and more people to the Golan Heights. She is survived by her father, by her brother and sister, and by her husband, and by 5 children. And so we really want to bless them. Shmuel got remarried to the wonderful Batsheva, and we really want to bless their families that have also melded together 2 big families to continue to be successful. I'm sure that you're being blessed by Leah.
Amen.
And we miss Leah Goldman very much, and we wish her neshama and aliyah.
Amen.
I also want to say that related to that somehow, in any case, it's related in radio logic, is that yesterday the judgment came down for the murderer of Ari Fuld.
Ari Fuld, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a life imprisonment for the 16. He was at the time 16 and a half year old terrorist who struck down Ari Fuld, who I knew very well as well, and really was murdered just a few kilometers down the road here. Good people are struck down, some by disease and others by terror. But at the same time, my good friend Bobby Pittenger and his family were just blessed this week with a brand new baby boy. I don't know the name yet. Was the name announced? I didn't catch that yet.
Yeah.
But we want to wish you the Pittenger family, a big fat mazal tov.
Amen.
And lots of blessings. And this is a family that loves Torah and loves Eretz Yisrael, and are strongly connected. So we wish the new boy to have a hatzlacha, to go into Torah, chupan, maasim tovim, all the good things. All right, good. What else? Today is also Rosh Chodesh, as we said, Rosh Chodesh, and we're starting a new book. Now, you and I, because of my fault, I think I missed broadcasting with you last week, so I apologize to everybody. No big deal.
You.
That's right. What we didn't talk about from last week is the Torah portion that ends the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, and the 2 Torah portions, and it really talked about dividing up the land of Israel, who the heads of the tribes will lead the Jewish people to the land of Israel, the dangers of leaving your enemies on the land of Israel, and the allotment, really, the apportionment and the borders of the land of Israel. If I didn't say that, so it was really the. Should I say it again? The denouement of the.
You love that word.
I do like it. The climax of the book of Numbers,
well,
which is really
denouement and climax are not the same thing.
Isn't denouement like the
denouement is the after effect of the playing out. It's the climax.
Oh, darn it! There's so much to learn. There's so much to learn out there. There's so much knowledge. Wow, there's so many other things I want to talk to you about. I also want to tell you that I went to the Kinneret recently, and I got a chance to. You and I both have had little mini vacations in the last few days. Am I right?
Yes, thank God. I got away for Shabbat to the beach in Netanya. Super beautiful, very sweet town.
I love Netanya. I love Netanya. Netanya is one of the best. And I went up to the Kinneret and hung out on the shores of the Kinneret. And I think the reason I'm tying this in is because those Matot Masaya was really about the land of Israel Torah portions. And we speak about the land of Israel a lot, but a lot of our brothers and sisters, both the Jewish tribe and family, and both lovers of the land of Israel, are locked out of the country, and are really locked out for the foreseeable future.
It's been a long time, and yeah, I know my mom has finally canceled her ticket. She had a ticket for Pesach and couldn't come. And she rolled it over to Rosh Hashanah, thinking at the time we were like, of course he'll be able to come for Rosh Hashanah. And doesn't look like that's going to happen now. It's like really heartbreaking.
So, Rabbi Mike, a good friend of mine, Mayor Eisenman, who is one of the finest tour guides in the land.
Sure, he's famous.
He's famous, thank God. Maybe I've helped him a little bit. He called. He left me a WhatsApp message saying we have to help break this siege in which our American Jewish brother. It's not a siege, but the blockade. The blockade. That was the word.
Blockade, yeah.
The naval blockade. The air and naval blockade, which is stopping our brothers and sisters from being able to come home. And then I was in a bit of
a suggestion for how to do that.
Right, he didn't say that. I was in a feisty mood, and I sent him back a message, and I said to him, "Yes, you can believe it." I said to him, you know, maybe American Jews are locked out as a little lesson for them. I said, you know, sometimes we take the land for granted. And we think that it's always there for us. And we think that it's a playground where we do our fun stuff. There we eat the good food in the summer. And we go to the hotel and the beach and Hebron and Masada. But maybe we think of it as like not the real life. And then we go back home to the real life. And I said, maybe it's a little lesson for them.
Disneyland.
Right, religious Disneyland. And then he said back to me, and then another friend of mine named David Chazoni said to me, but our brothers and sisters are in a lot of pain right now. And we should recognize where they're at right now, both in how that country is doing, the divisiveness of that country, Corona that struck hard there, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And I felt sheepish a little bit because I thought to myself, he's right. There's something like I should, just like I want them to have a little lesson about the land of Israel, we should have a lesson. I should have a lesson about caring more
about
for
the people of Israel.
Yeah.
And I'll add to that we want to be careful opening that lens of judgment, because the reality is that we're in more danger than they if we're going to say that the consequences of not loving and respecting the land of Israel are felt immediately. I mean, we're the ones that risk getting spit out of the land, right? I mean, our respect for the land, our respect for the Torah, our respect for one another, our obligation to create a just government and to be sovereign. These things are not necessarily being fulfilled. I mean, I wouldn't dismiss the accomplishments we made. God forbid. That's not my point. My point is that there's a wake up somewhere here. It's a wake up call. And if it's a wake up call to our brothers and sisters outside of Israel, come home, then to us, it's a wake up, like, be Israel. Like, don't just be a bunch of Jews in the land, or God forbid, a Hebrew speaking, nation, like others, but be Israel. I was talking about this with my class last night, that the Rambam says that the conquest, this is Gemara, that the conquest of Yehoshua, the sanctity of the land was uprooted by the conquest of the Babylonians, because if might makes right, that works both ways. But the conquest of Ezra, which was done through acquisition, right? The Persian Empire granted this land to us, held out, but there's complications. And so we were speaking about, is there a third way? Because we've
wait. But you didn't say the end there, which is the conquest of Ezra through purchase did stick.
I said held out. It held out.
Yeah.
But it's still complicated if you look, because they didn't take all the land, and there's this status and that status. So we've done the Joshua style conquest, not to the degree that Joshua did, but we've done our fair bit. We've done the Ezra style conquest, whether it's in direct purchase or sort of international recognition. What's really going to make it permanent, in my eyes, is when we understand that really the only thing that gives us a hold on this land is the fulfillment of our obligations. We have a mission. This land is a platform for our mission in the world, and not conquest nor acquisition is enough to really bind us to this land. Only the fulfillment of our mission.
My rationale, a lot has been written, a lot has been thought about and written about the difference between the conquest of Joshua and the conquest of Ezra.
For sure.
And the real question is, wait a minute, wasn't Joshua coming with godly miracles and with awesome power, and Ezra came with kind of a poor group of misfits in Babylonia? So how is it that his
misfits and ideologues? There was the core ideologues.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You can decide which one I am, which one you are.
Sometimes ideologues are misfits.
Yeah, well, usually they are.
Right.
Ideologue is not a nice term in most people's mouths.
Right. My explanation for that is actually maybe a little novel, which is that Joshua and company, they came, there was nothing else they could choose. They couldn't go back to the desert, and they couldn't go back to Egypt. They came there by force, and those that tried to reject it already got smashed.
Yep.
The Ezra people, they came by total choice. In fact, their brothers and sisters were like, what are you doing? And they're like, but we yearn for the land of Israel. And their brothers and sisters were like, but Babylon's working for us.
It's so good. It's so good.
Right. So when
you have the sushi.
Right. When a Jew chooses the land of Israel by choice, it's a completely different level than when you are forced to accept it. When you come here by choice, or when you run away from anti-Semitism, those are two different things. Oh, we'll take you if you run from anti-Semitism. Oh, you bet we will. But there's a difference between that and saying, I want this land. I'm coming home because I want to be close to God in this land. The other thing I want to tell you is that actually at the end of my beach day, we went to see the Rambam. The Rambam is buried in Tveria. It's so fabulous to visit the Rambam. But he's not there alone. There are many sages.
Heavy hitters. The Shlomo Kodesh is there. It's Rabbi. No, it's not Rabbi Yochanan. It's
Yochanan ben Zakkai.
Yeah, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. That's what I thought it was. Remember, we went last year. That was last year.
Right. That's right. I was thinking about that. I was thinking if it wasn't Corona, we'd go on another road trip.
That road trip was a lot of fun.
That was fun. That was very special. That's right. That's right. And I went to the tomb of the Rambam, and I saw the Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who is the one who chose Yavne over Jerusalem when the emperor, what is it, Titus? Is it Titus?
Vespasian. He spoke to
Vespasian, right?
It was his son that he left behind to conquer Jerusalem when he returned to Rome to take up the mantle of the purple.
Right. Now, a American progressive intellectual by the name of Peter Beinart has written an article titled Yavne, in which basically he argues just like this sage was able to choose a lesser Zionism because Rome had conquered it, so too Israel today can choose a lesser form of Zionism of an ethnic national state, instead make it a state of all its citizens, a binational state, which I've termed now Beinartistan. Yes.
Yeah. You got to copyright that.
I wrote it in my article, and I call it Beinartistan. Beinartistan, and I think, by the way, I can understand why he's so into binationalism, because it just sounds like his name. So it's binational Beinartistan, and he uses Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai as a kind of model. Which, by the way, I got to give intellectual kudos for at least formulating it in this interesting Jewish way. I mean.
Yes, and my reading of the article is that he didn't understand the Gemara at all.
Right.
Go ahead. At all. Well, don't forget that the Gemara itself raises the issue, Meisir Chachman. I forget exactly how the pasuk comes. It's like, well, he was a fool. Rabbi Yochanan should have asked Rome to go away, and it's Rabbi Akiva's voice that says it, that he lost his wisdom. But the reply is that Rabbi Yochanan understood there are situations in history in which the only thing you're going to get, tfasa meruba lo tefasta. If you're going to try to grab too much, you're going to end up with nothing. So you had to, meitzil purta. You had to save a little bit because Rome was this ascendant power. But Rabbi Akiva is the one who understood that the flip side of that argument is that sometimes actually survival means going for broke, even if you fail. Because it's not just a matter of holding on to some little bit that you can survive with. It's a matter of what's your purpose. And despite the fact that people paint Rabbi Akiva's rebellion and Bar Kochba rebellion as this tremendous failure and cause of suffering, I disagree vehemently. That the Bar Kochba revolt was the fire that fused the teachings of Yavna into a unit which actually could not only survive but thrive and serve as the seeds for the world in which we live today. So yeah, for him to, I found it infuriating. I mean, yes, true, he's a cut above the rest in the fact that at least he knows the Gemara, But I was tempted to do the whole even the devil can quote scripture thing on it, but that's borrowing tradition.
I liked everything you just said. The only thing I would just kind of change a little bit is to say, I don't think Jewish history records Rabbi Akiva as being a loser Nobody ever said, Rabbi Akiva, you're the one who led to this thing. The opposite, like everybody understood that Rabbi Akiva is considered one of the greatest of all sages.
Yeah, but the Bar Kokhba rebellion was judged by the sages, and certainly for most of Jewish history up until the Zionist movement, to be an unmitigated disaster. And the big question of it was, how could Rabbi Akiva have been sort of behind it all?
We still find those inspiring coins that say for the freedom of Jerusalem. And according to some, there's some disagreement on this I found, but according to some, Bar Kokhba actually did take back Jerusalem and hold it for 3 years, and restarted the temple sacrifices.
You know, I find one of the most moving things. Have you ever seen the Bar Kokhba letters? Mm-hmm. They were discovered in the caves not far from my house, where he sends messages. He's in the middle of a war with the largest concentration of legions that this region had ever seen. Right? And he's sending men and messengers saying, the army's very large. We need a lot of etrogim and lulavs and hadassah because Sukkot is here. That's right. It's just an incredible thing.
That's right. So any Chabadnikim, by the way, you left me a message today. We were back and forth on SMS, and then the message you sent me was the 770th, was 770 in my messages. I said, this is a good sign. This is a good sign.
Closet Chabadnik, right?
That's right. So I mean, there you go. Get your lulav and etrogim ready for the armies of Israel. Anyway, it was wonderful to be at the tomb of the Rambam, and it also capped. That's what I love so much about vacationing in the land of Israel. Like you vacation, you swam in the beach, but then it's not like swimming in Florida where you're like, okay, I swam, that was good for my body. Like,
right.
You went to this holy place, and my wife just loves that kind of stuff. And it's like we finished it off with this beautiful like spiritual. We were there on a spiritual journey as well, and that's wonderful. Speaking of spiritual journeys, we're starting a recap, and we're starting the book of Deuteronomy. And by the way, I'm supposed to Eric the monk has corrected me yet again, and I'm supposed to say Pentateuch with a K at the end, not Pentateuch. I'm so dumb. Anyway,
he didn't say the "I'm so dumb" part.
He didn't say that. So we are starting.
By the way, fifth merit. I've begun Googling how do you pronounce. Anytime I have a question, I'm going to save myself the embarrassment of getting that email.
That's right. And I love Latin terms and French terms. I love French political terms. I love those. What's that?
I said I like French fries.
I like. Please, if you have any political French terms or Latin terms that you like, please send them over. I used to love them in law school. Though they had these great, writ of certiorari and stuff like that. They had great stuff in law school of Latin terms. But in any case, the book of Deuteronomy, which is the second telling of the Torah, it's a different kind of book. It's written in a different voice. It's written in the voice of Moses. And we started now. It's a 30-day speech that starts at the Jordan Jericho.
The next time you think the rabbi's servant is too long, just remember that. That's 30 days.
I just want to say a Hebrew joke to you now. The gabbai says to the rabbi is giving a long speech, so the gabbai comes up to him and says, "Zman Rabbeinu Tam." Zman Rabbeinu Tam. Okay, there you go.
I got it.
For those who get it, there you go. I'm even Yovan. No problem. In any case, we have a very special Torah portion, which is the beginning of a book which retells the story. Now, I actually have a big problem with this book. My problem is that during the whole summer, I find that I have a very hard time saying Divrei Torah. I have a very hard time getting up there if they ever ask me to speak somewhere. I have a very hard time speaking during this time because in the rest of the times I can find word connections and things and ideas. Here it's like, just listen to the man. Just, if you'd like, I'll read to you from the book, but there's nothing to add to it. Let me just read to you from what he says because the rabbi is speaking. Yeah. The rabbi is speaking. What do you want from me? You know what I mean? And that's something that is always troubling for me in this Torah portion. But one of the things that before we'll get to what you hinted at for a second, but there is one verse that I like very much that I wanted to speak with you. Here's the good news. Moses in verse chapter 1, verse 11, Moses says, Hashem Elokei Avotechem, the God, Hashem, the God of your forefathers, Yosef Alechem Kachem Elef Pamim. He should increase upon you 1,000 times. Vivarech etchem, and he should bless you, Kasher Dibarchem, as he has spoken to. But then the next word is Heicha Oh my God. How can I carry alone? On the one hand, you're blessed and you're awesome and you're huge and you're just a massive, awesome people. And Hashem is blessing you. On the other hand, there's a lot of you.
That's a lot of Jews to deal with.
Yes. And there's a lot of contentiousness and dealing with you is not easy. That's what I think about our beloved state of Israel. On the one hand, it's like awesome. On the other hand, that's a handful.
A lot of Jews to deal with. I'm telling you, man. I don't envy anybody who's in charge here.
That's right. And when they ever, sometimes I think Netanyahu's greatest skill is just keeping the lid on the pot. That is the.
I mean, he might be slipping on that one right now.
That's right. That's right. The greatest skill here in Israel is to be able to manage the very vociferous forces that pull at this, the gravities that pull at this from different directions.
Well, apparently the good tech is just to give everyone a mana falafel and chips, and it just works.
Hey, falafel will do a lot for you. Falafel will do a lot. So tell me what you think about a lot. Like you're blessed a lot, but you're also a big lot, and that's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you kind of said the essential thing, which is that the intensity of the connection to the divine, which is the hallmark of Am Yisrael, is only a blessing if you have the kelim to receive it. It's only a blessing if you have the vessels to receive it. And the land of Israel is a primary vessel for that. The Torah is a primary vessel, but I think in particular there's an aspect of leadership, right? The Midrash says in many places that Moshe Rabbeinu shakal keneged kol Am Yisrael, that Moshe had the sort of a comparable weight, so to speak. He was equal to all of Am Yisrael. It's a strange notion, but here I think what it means is that Moshe was a real leader. He could serve, he could hold it, he could serve as a cleat to hold that, and to then take all this sort of very powerful, disparate energy and weld it into a people, right? And I think that Moshe is pointing out is that, gosh, I've had many people say this, like your children are very big engines, right? It's like one of those expressions that they use in parenting classes. Like, it's a child with a very big engine. You're like, well, thank you very much. Can we throttle back on that? And like, oh, your kids are going to be, when they grow up, they're going to do amazing things or something. Like, well, really? Because right now they're killing each other, and that's what I hear in what Moshe is saying, is that the capacity of Am Yisrael is so astounding. At the same time, to have that kind of capacity without the proper vessels to hold and channel it is tremendously destructive and difficult. And he's been holding it for this long, and right now he's putting it down. We have to remember that that's the context here. He knows. It's been told in no uncertain terms. Oh, in Vayetz Hanan, he'll have his last sort of attempt to overturn the decree. But he knows this is it. This is his parting speech. And anything he can teach us now is what he's got to teach us.
Right. And in some ways, there is a clue into the end of the Moses leadership in this Torah portion with the retelling of the sin of the spies, which strangely, by the way, just got retold again last Parsha when the two tribes asked to stay on the east side of the River Jordan. So he says to them, hey, your forefathers, when they spied out the land, they came back with a negative report. They melted our hearts, and you're going in their way. You're melting the hearts of the people.
The same thing.
Right, and you have a bad culture. He literally says, Tarbut Anashim Chataim. Right, you got bad culture going on. That word is used there. And here again is the retelling of the tale. But in a way, the retelling of the tale here is in order to say, it was really your idea to send the spies, and I got punished because of that.
Yeah,
maybe I went.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Maybe I was going to say maybe I went down the Aaron path, which instead of sticking to what I do best, which is capital T truth, I succumbed a little bit to you, and that led me to the road that led to a certain demise.
Well, let's lay it out for people who may not be so familiar, because there's a couple of details here I think that not only teach us a very important lesson about Moshe Rabbeinu and leadership in general, but they open out for us what exactly the Book of Devarim is, because you already alluded to the fact that the Book of Devarim does not fit the mold, right? It's no longer a linear narrative. Like, the linear narrative stops basically at the end of Bamidbar, and we now are going to retell, so it's a reflection. It's also in Moshe's voice, and there are many other ways in which it differs, but back in Bamidbar, at the beginning of Parshat Shalach, it was Shlach L'cha Anashim. And it sounds like God says to Moshe, yeah, send the people. And then Rashi there alludes to what happens, but here in our Parsha, Moshe retells. He's now telling this back. Remember, if you were 19 years old at Sinai, you were there when the spies went, and you're alive now.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fact that whole generation passed away doesn't mean that there's no one there that remembers. If you were 18, 19, you probably remember fairly well what happened. This was a major life event. So he says, you all came to me, and you said, we want to send people, spy out the land. And Moshe says, Yitav Beinart davar. I thought it was a good idea. Right? And I took them, and I sent them, etc. Right? But the missing piece is what Rashi fills in from the Midrash Tanchuma. That how did it all go down? How could it be that in Bamidbar it sounds like God says send them, and here when Moshe himself is retelling his own experience, he says, "You came to me and said, let's do it," and I said, "Good idea." So Rashi fills in the critical piece from the Midrash. He says, "What really happened? The people came to Moshe and said, we want to send spies." Now, up until now, every time anybody has come to Moshe with an innovative idea, what does Moshe do? What's he do? Everything. Bnot Tzlov say we should inherit. The people who are carrying the bones of Yosef say we don't want to miss out on Pesach. What does Moshe do?
He turns it back to God. He asks the question.
Hang on, let me check with the Eibishter. Like that's what I do. I'm Moshe. Here, the Midrash points out that for the first and perhaps only time, Moshe says, "God, what should I do?" And God says, "I don't know, Moshe. What are you gonna do?" Shlach lecha, says Rashi. You think it's a good idea? You send him. And that's what Moshe says. I thought it was a good idea, so I sent you. And then at the end of it, even more mysterious, right? It says, hang on, it's in line, I think it's like 37. 37, yeah. Gambi hitanaf Hashem b'gilalchem lemol gam ata lo tavot sham.
Right.
And God was also angry with me, sort of because of you on your behalf. And he said, you can't go into land. What? You ask every kid who's educated in the Israeli religious school system, and probably ones who are educated in the secular, some of them will tell you, why didn't Moshe go in the land? He hit the rock. That's not what Moshe says. Right? Moshe says he can go in the land because he was unable to do the right thing in this moment. So what wasn't he able to do? I think that goes back to our discussion about the capital T, little t. Moshe didn't understand fear. He did not understand fear. Did not understand how it was that these people who had been following the pillar of cloud by day and fire by night, they were surrounded by the clouds of glory, drinking the Miriam's well in manna, and they'd seen the splitting of the Red Sea in Sinai. How could they possibly still be afraid? He even says in the description that he says to them, don't be afraid. Al tichat. Al tirad al tichat. That's right. Right? That's like his milui, his sort of like throwaway line. Don't be afraid. Because fear is part of process. Because process lacks certainty. But Moshe, like you said, Moshe is not about process. Moshe sees the product. And the Eretz Yisrael is about the process. Right? And there's no certainty for any one generation. Yeah, there's a divine promise. For sure. That's where the certainty lies. But not to you and I. And this was Moshe's realization that he was not the one to lead us in. He belonged to the wilderness.
He belonged to that generation.
Yeah, but specifically to the wilderness, because the wilderness was a place of perfection. Clouds of glory, Miriam's well, manna, the echoes of Sinai. But here's not the daily life of uncertainty, of fear, of messy process, of failure and success.
I thought what you were going to say is he didn't understand the people's fear, and therefore he was not a proper leader for them all the way to lead them in, because he wasn't in mental touch with them.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Is he couldn't get it, and therefore he couldn't speak to them. Meaning, what should he have done? He should have said, "Whoa! Why do you guys want to send spies?" Right? And it's so we're friends. Guys, listen, I get it, but listen, there's a place for irrational fear, and there's a place for courage. And of course, who are the people who show true courage? Yehoshua and Caleb. They're the ones who say, yeah, we saw it all. We saw everything that you guys were afraid of. But God said, we're going to do it. Notice it's not that they weren't afraid. Because courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. I mean, that just mean you're ignorant, right? Courage means you're afraid and you're going to do it anyway because you believe it can happen.
Right. But they did also see the very same fears in a different way. They saw opportunity. They saw.
Yeah.
I mean, like look, like in my mind, like a great businessman has got those kind of eyes. He just looks at something. He sees a dirty, empty lot, a broken lot. He sees a skyscraper. Okay, people have that sometimes.
But no, what he doesn't see? He doesn't see the certainty of it. He sees a risk he's willing to take.
Right. That's right. That's the courage part.
That's
the courage part. Right.
But Moshe saw the certainty, and that was where the inability to really relate to the people's fear of risk. So Moshe Rabbeinu, it's like he lived in a world of certainty, like you said, which is powerful, beautiful, and we still sort of are illuminated by his light. But in the end of the day, it's not the world in which we live.
This year, I also saw a medrash that I never saw before, and it just says something so simple that I never heard before. The medrash was like, "Will your generation be condemned, and the leader is going to go into the land of Israel?" It just says it like that. It's like, could it be that you will graduate, but your whole flock won't? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't. I saw it from straight in the midrash. I was very surprised at how simple that was, how simple and powerful it was.
Wait, I want to give you one more piece.
Yeah, go ahead.
We move on. If you look in pasuk chet on pasuk the 8th verse, right? It says, "Rei natati lifnechem et haaretz." Right? It's in the past tense. Behold, I've already given you the land. Bo rushu et haaretz. So go and inherit it. Right? Come and inherit. Bo, right? So you look at Rashi, it says, Bo Rushu. It says, Ein ma'arer b'davar. There's nobody that's going to argue with you on it. Einchem tzrichim l'milchama. And you wouldn't even have to fight. Ilu lo shalchu meraglim, lo yu tzrichim l'klei zayin. That if we hadn't sent the spies, we would have not even needed war. Mm-hmm. Why? Because, and that was Moshe's level. You see, if we really weren't afraid, if we really understood that if God said we're going to inherit it, it's as if it's already done, then we wouldn't have been drawn into this sort of like tactical error of the spies, and the whole story going forward would have been fundamentally different.
The power of faith is the power to change reality in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all have, by the way, internal fears about what we can do and what we can reach. It's very powerful to get in touch with those things and to say them and to know them outright, what you're afraid of. And I think that there are also forces out there today that use fear. Weaponizing narratives is really making people scared, making people doubt. There's a lot of forces like that in this world today. There's a lot of forces that want to make you afraid of what you know is true, afraid of your own possibilities, afraid of the land of Israel, afraid of standing up for yourself, afraid of standing up, by the way, for what you believe in politically or morally. You just can't say out there today what you believe because you're just being judged all the time, or you're going to be shamed, or you're going to be cancel culture. By the way, I had there was a video of me surfaced saying some stuff, and the it's been seen now like 30,000 times on Twitter or something like that.
Awesome.
Was it 30,000?
What were you saying?
I was talking about the Temple Mount, and I said that God does not. Well, the clip that they cut out, I said that I was talking about Hashem or the Hashemites, who should rule the Temple Mount, Hashem or the Hashemites.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, I'm like, that's right. I'm like the Hashemites are a substitute for Hashem. Like, we want Hashem, not Hashem. Okay, and then I said that God says when you're in other people's lands, we're supposed to be liberal. Jews are liberal. We see the beauty and the truth and the rights of other people to express themselves. But when God brings us back to Jerusalem, he says, be liberal with me. Give me my small Jerusalem, my small land of Israel, my small Temple Mount, to be free. And here's where I got in trouble: to be free of churches, of mosques, and of idolatry. That's right. So the anti-Israel crew, and I don't mean, I mean that literally, it was the anti-Israel crew, not the regular like Jewish crew that is like left or liberal, picked up on it, and they splashed it all over the internet, asking Newsweek, shouldn't you cancel this author?
That was the take.
Right, they went right for cancel culture. Cancel culture.
And you of course said, well, I'm just quoting the Sephardic and Ashkenazic Rishonim. Or how Josiah got rid of the idolatry. And no, but my point is that if you don't like the stance that the church and the mosque might be idolatrous, So then you might as well cancel my entire legal history.
That's right. And that's the thing. The thing is what I said was not. It wasn't really contentious. I was just saying what are Jewish laws.
No, it can be contentious.
It was contentious,
but it was not, the intent was not hateful or hurtful, nor was it just based in nothing. Meaning, one of the challenges that the cancel culture seeks to avoid is that we have to also look at the realities that have shaped us. You can't just decide in the year 2020, I had to check, that this is what morality is. This is what truth is, and anything which doesn't conform to this. They say the expression used to be, we are dwarves standing on the shoulders of giants. Now the perspective is we're giants standing on the shoulders of dwarves.
And very powerful.
And we're crushing them.
Right. We're crushing the past.
Which notice, by the way, means that our ability to see gets less.
Right. And also it's a complete haughtiness in simple terms. Do you really think that you're a giant? And do you really think that the past are nobody's? I'll never forget, by the way, one of my favorite stories, and I'm not sure, it could have been that our mutual friend Zev showed it to me. I'm not sure, but this is an amazing thing. You could look it up, that during the last tsunami in Japan, they kind of studied the area where the tsunami was hit. They found all these stones, these big monoliths, and it was written in Japanese 500 years ago, do not build below this line.
Right.
Okay, you build below this line.
I think you mentioned it to me too.
It's in the New York Times. They have pictures of it. You just see these monoliths. Do not build. And I love it that the ancients sent us a message. The ancients sent us a message.
I love it that we built a nuclear reactor below the lines. We didn't just build a house.
Right, that's right.
Come on, what could possibly go wrong with a nuclear reactor below the tsunami line?
Right, or who knows? Who could believe that the water would come up to this line? That's absurd. And the ancients are like, no, it comes up to here. It comes up to here. It's got something to tell us. And minimally, we should listen to the ancients, if not necessarily accept everything, but at least deal with it. By the way, I want to tell you that I found a fabulous app for Daf Yomi, and I'm back on Daf Yomi, and I want to tell you, and I know you know this, I want to say to anybody who wants to start studying Talmud, Gemara Shabbos is packed full of just great stuff, great questions. My favorite question yesterday was, if twins were born, one was born on Friday before Shabbos, and the other one was born already on Shabbos. And let's say so the guy had to do a Brit Milah on Shabbat and on Sunday, on Friday and on Sunday. But he switched between the two, and he did the Milah for one kid one day early, and the other one he did it on Shabbos. That wasn't the right day. It wasn't the 8th day. So what happens? I was like, this is the greatest question I ever heard in my life. This is the greatest. Just the contemplation of this knowledge. And I get some of my friends writing to me saying, like, why do you guys study Talmud? Why is that important? And I just tell them it's the heart of Judaism. It's the heart of Judaism to know, how the ancients really thought, how they understood things, and to get that transmission. I have a Christian friend who's always challenging me and asking me, why do you guys listen to the rabbis and stuff? And I just tell him Moses is the first rabbi. Moses is the rabbi, and he's passing it down through the generations. Rabbi Mike Feuer, I want everybody to come check out your website, which is jewishstory.co. When they go to that website, they will learn so much, including your fabulous. I haven't gotten a chance to listen to your new series. I'm very excited to listen to it because I am very excited to listen to. I listened to the whole 6 Day War series, but I'm excited to listen, especially about Rabbi Alkali, who's been always very interesting to me. So I want to know more about him. That's on your new series about the
Heralds of Zion.
Heralds of Zion. That's very exciting. And you also do great spiritual counseling, so people can check that out and connect with you through jewishstory.co. Is that correct?
Yeah. Also on Facebook, Rav Mike Feuer. Easy way to reach me.
There you go. That is fabulous. I want to also talk about some of our sponsors, which are, for example, HebronFund.org. Hebron Fund is the organization that it's powered by. Hebron is powered by Hebron Fund, and it keeps strengthening us there to protect the tombs of the fathers and mothers, to give security to that community, and to make sure that it's beautiful and ready for you to visit. Alavida, by the way, the Tomb of the Rambam, beautiful site, so well kept up. I hope that Hebron will be like that as well. Our good friends at tchelet.com. You want to wear the True Blue Jew string? Here I'm wearing some right now. There it is. You can see it. There you go. That's right. Show it proud. and it's coupon code Yishai. That's right. We are in the time of Geula. That there's a coupon code for you to get a deal on this ancient mitzvah come to life again. That's awesome. Wait, do I have my new? Oh yes, here it is. Check this out. Go to IsraelWines.com. Also coupon code Yishai. Get your wines from the land of Israel. Have it delivered to your home. It's going to be awesome for you, and put that into your bloodstream. The wine of Israel. It's that easy. IsraelWines.com. And help us keep broadcasting by please visiting YishaiFleisher.com/donate. And that's right. We are building Israel together. That's our theme, building Israel together and broadcasting Israel together. Rabbi Mike Feuer, again, I want to thank you and just mention that today's show is dedicated to Leah Goldman and her memory, a mutual friend of ours, a great lady who the world misses. And as you said, continues to be active from the worlds above. And also we want to wish the Pittenger family a big Mazal Tov for the birth of a new baby boy. Last thoughts, last comments from you.
Last comments that, Devarim is a book of reflection. Moshe looking back over everything and trying to learn the lessons. We're in the 9 days right now. It's a time that I think we're called to a very similar reflection, be it in the immediate circumstances of our life, the current phase of our people, or over the arc of the last 2,000 years. Don't miss the opportunity, people, as we begin the book of Devarim, to take the time to retell our stories in a way in which is not only going to make us healthy in the present, but it's going to orient us positively for the future.
Amen. Very good. And that dovetails perfectly also with both Rosh Chodesh Av, Tisha B'Av, but also this COVID crisis period that we're living in. A great time to reflect and to think deep, and to also, I think, muster up the courage that when we're breaking out of this jail, we're going big. Like Joseph, we're going big. We're going all the way up from this to something much, much bigger. Shaul asks on the Facebook, he says, you mentioned about Daf Yomi app, but you didn't mention what app it is. And the app's name is Portal Daf Hayomi, but it's got plenty of English language lessons as well. It's got like 100 different classes every day on the Daf Yomi. Portal Daf Yomi, well-made app with also you can click a button, you'll see the page of the Talmud. Fabulous. Everything is worked out. Technology is working with us. Rabbi Mike Feuer, thank you again for being with us, and a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
God bless you guys wherever you are. Rabbi Mike, thanks again. More great stuff is on the way. I want to say shalom to all the good folks that are with us from all over the world, including Julie from New York, and Shaul and Lou, my good friend, and Amy, and Selwyn and Noel, and everybody else that's out there all around the world. Lots of love and lots of blessings from the land of blessings. Shalom, and see you soon. Oh, yeah, and write me an email, Yishai at YishaiFleisher.com or Yishai at thelandofisrael.com. Lots of love. Shalom.